really want to help the Izer Conegdos as they deal with trauma, and I know that a lot of us have had trauma in, many different times of our life, but as a Hebrew, this is gonna come a lot, and I want to help you bring your heart along for the ride. All right. Okay, so we have so much to go through. I'm going to go ahead and jump in, but I'm going to walk you through these Prezi slides, and I'm going to actually give you the slides. So I'm going to give you the Prezi link so you can go through them later. So if you don't have a paper pen and you can't write real fast, if you want to take notes, then you'll have them, okay? All right. Wow. Well, yes, it's been quite a road. I'm going to share with you what my family and I have been through over the course of the last, I think it's been 2 weeks now. Over the course of 2 weeks, sorry. All right. So Izer Conegdos let go and they learn to say goodbye. And this is true for places. This is true for letting goodbye of people, saying goodbye to people, saying goodbye to places and things, and basically to get unattached from the world, you got to say goodbye to a lot of stuff. All right, so cliches. This is one thing that really is one of my pet peeves when somebody's going through trauma, and I guess I'm speaking from my own personal experiences. When I go through trauma, I hear a whole lot of cliches, and the cliches, they're tossed around, and everyone gives their advice and their opinions, and it's not exactly helpful, because the point is, how do you actually process the trauma? So cliches are not going to help. You've got to learn how to process the trauma in real time, what I call real time. And this is something that is, I've had people say, how do you do that in real time? Because I'm processing it in real time. And there are many reasons, and we're going to go through those reasons. I have 12 steps here for dealing with trauma, how to go process trauma, and I'm going to take you through those in a second. But how do we actually process these events without making agreements with Hasatan? This is huge. And how do we go through the trauma without it damaging our hearts and our relationship with Yahweh? Okay, so, during trauma, you're going to have things that are going to be attacked. One is going to, by Hasatan, your relationship with Papa is going to be attacked. His character is going to be attacked, and your heart is going to be attacked. So if he can take out your heart, because that's where all life flows from. Remember how King Solomon talks about guarding your heart? If he can take out your heart, then he can destroy you. If he can color your picture of Papa towards you, that can take out your heart. Okay, so I want you to think about the last time you experienced trauma, and then I want you to walk through these steps with me, and let's see if some of them ring true to you. Okay, the life of a Hebrew is characterized by unrelenting opportunities to leave, let go, and trust Yehovah, your Elohim. The life of a Hebrew is characterized by unrelenting opportunities to leave, let go, and trust Yehovah, your Elohim. Unrelenting. It is, I've called it pounding. I've called it being pounded. It's a messy and real word. A messy and real word for this is trauma. Okay, so when we were up at the teepee, I got a word from Papa, and it was the word trauma. So I was going through so much living outside, and it was really taking a toll on my heart. And one day while I was slogging, I heard him say the word trauma. And to me, it was so comforting, because it was like he was recognizing that this is traumatic. I was going through something that he actually was taking us through that was traumatizing. And that it somehow just so that my heart knew that he knew that this was on that level, that experience was on that level of trauma. That was healing in and of itself. And I know that in the end, we are all going to get, FaceTime with Papa. We're going to get counseling sessions up the yin yang when we're in, when the kingdom comes in physical reality, and we're going to get some good counseling sessions. I know this for a fact. All All right, so why does it have to be this way? Why do you have to, why is this trauma, and the pounding kind of unrelenting when you're walking this path? And you don't even have to be walking this path for trauma. So I just know that from my own experience and from watching other people's experience, it seems like it's unrelenting when you're on this narrow path. So exiting Babylon can cause unrelenting pain, and these experiences can most definitely feel like and have manifestations like trauma. But so Yah gives his children relentless opportunities to cling to him, because a Hebrew must be set free from clinging to stuff, to our own plans, to protocols and social norms. We must cling to him only. This is crucial. This is so imperative to our salvation. If you want off the sinking Titanic, you have to be able to jump. You have to know that the arms that are there to catch you are going to catch you, and you have to be able to jump. And if you can't jump, you're going to go down with the Titanic. So he gives you opportunity after opportunity, and you would call it discipline perhaps. But I really believe that he's not pounding you for joy, for his enjoyment. He's polishing you. He's trying to take you to the next level so that he can have you in the, forever. That's his goal, is to have you forever. So he's got to get you set free from stuff. He's got to get you free from your own plans, your own designs, your own thinkings. He's got to get you free from protocols and social norms, and you have to learn how to cling to him only. But so then the question becomes, how do you guard your heart during these traumatic events? Because like King Solomon said, he said you have to guard your heart, right? And I find it interesting that in the Garden of Eden, Papa told Adam to guard the garden, which meant, what the hell was the snake doing there in the first place? Okay, that snake should never have been there, because he should have been guarding the garden. That snake shouldn't have been there. And so you look at guarding our hearts, the idea of keeping the snake out of our hearts. You've got to guard your heart during the traumatic events, because Hasatan can camp out on a traumatic event, and he can ruin you, because he can make agreements with you. He can get you to agree with him, different things, and we're going to talk about that in a second. How do you guard your heart during a traumatic event? Okay, and you do that by learning and turning a few very important skills into habits. Okay, so you're going to guard your heart by actually learning some new habits and skills. Okay, so you have some, what are those called? Skill sets, I think. Okay, and you're going to learn these things, you're going to apply these things for the goal of two things. There's two goals here. One is to trust him, for the goal of trusting him, and the second goal is to trust yourself, as in, where is your go-to in good time and bad times. So I trust myself so much that I know where my go-to is. I have been through so much trauma, so much pain, that I know where I go to. My go-to is him. It is to my knees. It is to my face on the ground. And it's, I'm going to walk you through just a little. I haven't always been like this. This is something that I learned and applied to my life when I was in my late 20s, I think, or mid 20s, I think. So you're going to learn a few skill sets, a few habits for the goal, two goals. One, to trust him. You're going to trust him with all your life, with all your heart and your life. You're going to be able to jump into his arms, and you're going to trust yourself. Where's your go-to? Okay. So I'm going to suggest that it is of utmost importance that you learn how to deal with the trauma in a healthy way. Why? Because you do not want to lose heart. Okay. And you do not want to lose faith in the one that you love, Yehovah Elohim, during the labor pains of the end of the age. Okay, so we are still in the middle of the war, and a lot is going to be required of you. A lot is being required of you. And as things escalate, which they are already escalating, you have got to be solid and firm in who you go to. on how you deal with trauma, because you're going to have so much. If you haven't already, I have had so much already. I can't imagine more, but I know more is going to come. And so I deal with trauma. I deal with those things that can be classified as trauma in a healthy manner. And if I didn't, then my heart would be stuck way back in the past. It would be shackled with chains of pain, and I wouldn't have it for the next part of the journey. So your goal is to keep your heart together, keep your heart healthy, and let it breathe and trust Papa. So that you can endure the end of the age. I really believe that we are living in a very, very unique time. And most of the time, I think, if I look back at my mom and dad's life, I really believe they went through maybe 1 or 2 traumatic instances in their life. I'm getting hammered. It's just one thing after another, after another, after another. And I really, I don't believe it's just because I'm unique and it's Rebekah, because I just asked for it. And I don't think it's that way completely. I live on the edge. I'm kind of fly by the seat of my pants sort of girl. And I do a little bit more trial and error than I think some people, but looking at my family's life, my parents' life, a couple of traumatic events, primarily around the death of, a loved one, was probably it. And those events could take them out. They could wipe them out. And I've seen it. I saw it wipe out my mom for years, So, but I think we're living in a different time. This is a different age, and we have got to learn how to deal with trauma in a way that is healthy, so that you are whole, that your heart is whole and intact. When you see the King come screaming through the sky, you want to be there. You want to be a whole person, right? And He's came to restore your heart. And so this is a really, really, really super important topic. Okay. All right. Letting go. All right, so I just want to recap really quick that I did not know how to always do this, okay? And for me, I think that's important for you to know as my audience, that I'm just not speaking, I'm not blowing smoke. I actually understand this very well, and I'm just going to run down a couple of things. This is by no means a comprehensive list, but I did not always know how to let go and to say goodbye and to deal with trauma, okay? I have a story of Calvin that I sobbed for 5 years over this boy when I was in my teens. I did not know how to let go. I was paralyzed, literally. I remember my mom and dad took us to Hawaii as kids for a family vacation that she had saved up for years. And we went on the beach, and I'm moping about this boy, and she kicks me in the butt, and she was so mad at me because I was totally ruining the vacation because I was so stuck on this boy. I sobbed over him for 5 years, Another guy, Doug, huge. I stayed in that really very chaotic, very abusive relationship. It was no good. It was awful, and I did not know how to let go. I did not know how to say goodbye. I didn't know how to walk away. Kevin, same thing. Good guy, but I could not let go. And then, of course, how many of us have this issue? I could not let go of my mother. I tried for 33. It was until I was 33 years old that I finally figured out, with Isaac's help, how to let go of my mother. How to say goodbye, how to let go of this very toxic relationship. So, and those are just a couple things. I definitely come from a history of hanging on to I wasn't necessarily hanging on to stuff, but I definitely hung on to people. I hung on to experiences, memories, places, not so much stuff, but definitely did not know how to let go and deal with the trauma of these different relationships and where they went and that. So it's definitely, and so for some of you that don't know, I'm not 33, I'm almost 50 years old. So it's been a while that I've been learning this. So now I'm going to take you through just a few things that I have let go of in the past decade, a little more than a decade. This was 2000, I want want to say 2008, 9, somewhere in there. Anyway, something like that. So if you notice here, you see our little house downtown. This is the backyard and the front yard. Beautiful little house there for 13 years. Renovated. Isaac and I renovated it front to back, upside and down. It was ours. We owned it. Never intended to leave. Never in a million years. And I had to let go of this. This is the last picture up here. If you see that, that is the last picture we had in the house before Isaac sent us off to live with some friends for a month while he went up and began the process of getting heat in the teepee. And long story, I'm not going to drag you through the story because I have more to talk about now, but I had to let go of this. This was traumatic, very, very traumatic experience. Had to let go of Kingdom Cellars juice. We had 1,000 bottles that we bottled in our basement after Michael Rood opened a bottle of our juice on stage and passed out our business cards, and we were going to be doing this. This is what we were going to be doing for Papa and for the feast keepers and stuff. And ends up they blew up in our basement. We had 1,000 bottles, 500 of them blew up in our basement. We had to say goodbye. This is me saying goodbye. Isaac and I saying goodbye. We took the moldy bottles of juice and blew them up in the mountains. I mean, I had to say goodbye to Fernand Elementary, and this was hard because I actually had to walk my children through. And the reason why we left was because we were on a Hebrew walk, because this is the time in our life where we left paganism and turned and crossed over, and it was huge. I mean, we were there for, I want to say 4 or 5 years, something like that. Both girls had been there for a long time, loved everyone at this school. I volunteered there. I always walked the halls. I prayed over the halls. I knew everyone. I volunteered in the classrooms and all. So I had to walk my children through saying goodbye in the middle of the year. Chance Encounter Photography, my photography studio, beautiful studio. As you can tell here, this is what basically caused the demise of losing everything. Was this wonderful base of clientele that I had, a long history of doing this, and decided to move out of the house and get a studio. Did this, and in the end opened in we got the studio, the loan in January. We got the studio opened by April. We were tanked by October. And it was this little picture here of the girls with Hadassah in the pink coat. This is the very last day we were in the studio, and this is a huge story of how I locked the door after we took everything out and had sold everything we had just set up for this beautiful studio, and how I walked in the snow. It was January 3, in the snow. I walked all the way home in big old boots and sorels, and I could not pick my feet up. I was so tired by this point. I couldn't pick them up, and Isaac had to come get me because I couldn't walk. I just was a mess. So, different things. Also, we had to let go. I had to let go of my favorite vehicle. This was my therapy. This Land Cruiser. The girls and I, for years, ever since they were born, this was our vehicle when the girls were born, and we would go to town in this, the girls and I, into the beach, and it was felt like part of me. I had to let that go. I had to let figure skating go. We couldn't afford it. Had to sell my engagement ring, when we lost everything. It has been one loss after another. We had a Tom Bombadil, little bunny rabbit that he was like a pet. He was inside. He could just be out, sitting on the couch and stuff, and had to let him go. We actually let him go in the woods. Isaac took him away and let him go and turned around and said goodbye. Katie and Nate, this is one of my favorite pictures with my two beautiful dogs. And this is Katie and Nate. Nate, right as we were losing everything, we're losing our house, we lost the business, we lost the house, we're moving into a teepee, and Nate dies 4 months before we ended up moving to the teepee, and Katie died a month after we got there. It was traumatic, absolutely traumatic. This is me dealing with Nate's death over here. We had mikvah that day after Nate died, and it was a Friday, and that's me dealing with what's going on here. And then Strawberry Mountain Farm, the cheapie, huge loss, huge. You know, you pour your heart and your soul into this place, and it's you. Everything in it is you. You've done everything, and you have to say goodbye. This is Hadassah and me at the teepee. This is teepee in its glory, and then this is Isaac and I, the day we said goodbye. The day we said goodbye. This is us. Heavens, I can't even say it anyway. And then that's just last week. Here we go again. This log cabin in the woods. This is our little log cabin as of last week. And whoops, I don't have the right picture here. Oops. I had a picture of us saying goodbye, but that didn't get in there. But anyway, so just so you know, I have been through my share of losses. I mean, these are just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, you name the family, you know, your family of origin, you name your church family, your position at the church, you know, there's so much. So here we go. I want to get on to what I really want to chat about today, which is how to deal with this. So I have 12 steps that I thought about it. I really did this week. As I was processing, and perhaps this is part of me processing how to do this. I sat down and I thought, what were the steps that I did, that my heart went through, that I naturally went through to deal with what has just happened with our family. And I'm going to tell you the story of what happened with our family that has just transpired over the last couple weeks as I go through the 12 steps. Okay. My 12 plus 1 step guide to surviving trauma. So I got done with 12 steps, and then I realized there was one more step, and so I had to add that. I didn't like the number 13. So 12 plus 1 step guide to surviving trauma. All right, these steps will help you do 2 things. They're going to help you protect your heart. All right, they're going to help protect your heart during trauma, and they're going to protect your relationship with Yehovah. Now remember, I do not think that cliches help at all. So a cliche meaning, you know, somebody who just wants to ignore the fact that trauma just happened, or friends that want to do that to you, want to ignore the fact you've just been through trauma, don't want to allow you the space to deal with that, or when they see you dealing with it, they think that something's wrong with you. So you can't keep your heart with you for this ride if you listen to cliches. Cliches are not going to help you. So if somebody wants you to process something super fast, or somebody wants to have you process it the way they do, or not process it at all, or don't say anything, or just get beyond it, or you know, they are not allowing you to take care of your heart. You're going to bring your heart along, and you're going to protect your relationship with Yehovah. Okay? These steps are going to, these 12 plus 1 steps are going to help you do those 2 things. Take care of your heart and take care of your relationship with Yehovah. Okay? So steps 1 through 9 can happen in literally minutes, or just a few hours after you experience trauma. This is what, for me, I'm going to basically talk in first person. So steps 1 through 9 can literally happen in minutes for me. And that's what happened this last week. Okay, step 1 is ask your heart. You're going to ask your heart a question. And the question you're going to ask is, what did the event do to my heart? Okay, I let my heart know that it matters what happened to it. Okay, so what does my heart want to do? What does my heart do? What did my heart feel? Did it feel danger? Did it feel sadness? What happened to my heart? Did it get damaged? Did it get hurt? Does it need to flee? Most of the time it will tell me what it needs. My heart trusts me. Okay, so if I don't take care of my heart well, if a person does not take care of their heart well, the heart will actually distrust you. Do you understand that? Because your heart has a mind of its own, and you've got to take care of your heart. So last Wednesday, I had just, it had been quite a 3-day period at that point. So Sunday, there was a post in the ladies group that basically took me out. It was a traumatic experience emotionally that I didn't even know I went through until the chiropractor saw the trauma in my spine the next day. And so I quickly put Charmin in charge of the group to moderate it. And then I tried to get healing from my heart. I was going to begin to fast and pray over you know, where the group was going to go, what was going to happen to the group, what did Papa want to see, you know, the future of the group be, group as in the Ladies of Teshuvah group. For 2 days, my spine was experiencing the result of a emotionally traumatic event, and my chiropractor saw it, blew me away. But then, so that was Monday and Tuesday. And then I went to essential oil training with my friend Karen on Tuesday night to just get some more essential oils into my life and learn how to use them for stress and this sort of thing. And then Wednesday I was feeling really good. It was sunny out, beautiful. I did some errands in town, came home about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and the landlord who lives basically next door to us, above us, he came out of, or wherever he was, he ended up behind my car when I got out of my car and I was pulling stuff out. And he had a shovel in his hand and he began to verbally attack me. And okay, you're out in the woods at the end of the road. You're out in the mountains. I mean, there's no one within screaming distance. Okay, he began to attack me on 2 different issues that really were not issues at all. I'm not even going to drag you through what those were, but basically accusing me of all kinds of things and screaming at me and attacking me verbally. And I could not believe what I was listening to, because we had been living in the same vicinity for quite a while and it seemed to be pretty good. This was actually, I believe, the second time that he had verbally attacked me, though, in like me all by myself. And then it was, so there's 3 times, 2 times it was by myself. Once about the dogs barking, and then this time about 2 different issues, and then one time before in front of a couple people, his kids. So anyway, my point is that I was shocked. I could not believe what had just happened. So I felt shock. I ran into the cabin. Unfortunately, the internet had gone down the day before in the cabin and I couldn't call Isaac. So I was stranded. The girls were there. They had just started eating lunch. I paced the floor. I didn't know what to do. And finally I realized I didn't want him showing back up at the cabin. So I got my phone and I ran outside up to his cabin, where there was his big lodge, where there was more people. I saw his wife was there and a couple of his adult kids. So I ran up there, and when I walked in, the mom, the lady, his wife, turned on me, and I saw the snake. I saw the snake come out of her and hiss at me. Not only hiss, but attack. And I was so shocked. I blew back. One of the daughters was trying to get the mom to stop. She was like, "Mom, stop. Mom, stop." Anyway, I blew back, ran out, went down, and as I'm between their house and mine, I knew what was going to happen. I absolutely knew we were leaving. And I knew it was going to be fast and hard, but I still knew my heart was in shock. So I got the girls, got the dogs, got in the car, and went to town. So in this step, I asked my heart, as I was coming down from their house to the cabin, I was basically processing in my heart really fast, oh my God, danger, danger. My heart felt danger. My heart did not want to stay there 1 minute longer. Not the pretty view was enough to make me stay, not the fact that all my stuff was nicely put away in cupboards and everything. It didn't matter what, the fact that it was it's a beautiful place to walk the dogs. It was not enough. My heart wanted to run. Okay. So step 2 is to feel the pain. Okay. So then this is what I say to Isaac all the time, is you have to let the pain pass through you. Okay. And I really mean that. Like, you really have to allow the pain to all the way pass through you. So you must let your heart breathe. If you don't let your heart breathe and speak whenever it needs to, it's going to not trust you. Okay. So if I don't let it speak, it will pile up, and then I will be paralyzed and unable to do anything. So I will not be able to do anything if I don't let my heart speak. So I need to respond appropriately. Okay. So the pain is coming, and I'm going to respond appropriately to the pain. Okay, so responding appropriately would be things like tears or that sinking feeling, allowing that sinking feeling to sink you. And I don't try to be strong to cover up what my heart is trying to speak. This is huge because people want you to be okay. So your family members want you to be okay. Your neighbors want you to be okay. Everybody wants you to be okay. And so when you go through a hard time, you know, they just want to fix it. And I am famous for that with my girls. You know, I'm sorry to say, but, you know, when something is going wrong, I just want to fix it. You know, I got to stop doing that. I got to allow them the process of, you know, the journey. But just quickly, when we lived downtown in Coeur d'Alene, I had the neighbor's husband and I had been talking over the fence line one morning early, and I go inside, 2:00 in the afternoon, the ambulance is there at my neighbor's house and they're hauling him out, and he had died. And we were newly married. Isaac and I were newly married at the time, and I was beginning to allow myself to really process things that were hard out loud. And I felt like that news, when I saw what happened and saw that he had just died, I'd just been talking to him and he just died, it was like a wave hit me, like a tsunami wave just hit me. And I ran into the house and I knew what music I needed. I threw the music on, and I felt the pain just slam me against the wall of the kitchen, and I slid down to the floor, and I just started sobbing, and it's terrified Isaac. He didn't know what to do, but I was letting it pass through me. So truly, you've got to learn how to let it to pass through you. Okay, so people will actually shorten. They try to shorten or prevent the pain from passing through me, and I will not allow that to happen. I avoid people most of the time when I'm going through when I'm going through that much of trauma and that much pain, because they will try to make me okay. They'll try to shorten this and get me okay. And in reality, the only one who I really want to share with is Papa. At the first part, because he knows absolutely everything that I've been through to get to this point. He knows how huge of a moment this is. He knows, you know, what I'm feeling inside. He knows my history. He knows why this is so hard on me. He knows, and he's angry for me. He is angry at the evil one for doing this to me, for me having to be here on this stupid planet sometimes, where you're dealing with all this pain and trauma. He's the only one that gets it. He's the only one that knows. And so I really try to not allow other people's input in right at first. I really go straight to him. This is where my go-to is. And so last Wednesday, so I had the danger, right? So I did step 1. And all these things happen super fast, and sometimes they overlap each other, and they like within milliseconds. Sometimes they're doing it in minutes, you know. So I had the danger. I felt the danger. I let my heart speak, and then I was in shock. So I took the girls, took the dogs, went to town, and got the girls at their friend's house or something. And then I don't even. It's kind of a blur, but I took the dogs and I went to Tubbs Hill. I went to the beach. I found a little private beach, and I let the dogs off the leash, and they just bounded from one rock to another, and I just sat there, and I just was like, in shock, like literal shock. And I put then I came back, put the dogs in the car, and then I started I was trying to walk to a bakery to get like a little tea or something, and I had to go to the restroom, and I didn't even know where I was going. I didn't know which place I was going to go into to go to the restaurant. I just started walking, and I felt so much shock. I was just wandering, and this is probably a good 45 minutes, something like that, an hour. And then I went to my friend's house to get my girls, and she said one thing: "How are you? How's it going?" And the flood opened, and she got up and held me, and I just sobbed. I just began. So I went through this process of, oh my gosh, danger, I got to get out of here, to shock, to hurt. And all of this is pain combined, and I just poured out on her, and I just started crying and sobbing, and I let my heart speak as I'm doing that. As I'm crying on her shoulder, I allowed my heart to speak. And sometimes I hear things that I didn't know were there, and yet I know it's there. I'm so tired. I'm so tired. And she's seen a lot. My friend has seen a lot of what we've gone through, and so she knew, how hard this was. And but then when I got the girls in the car, got home, and went to bed, and I woke up angry. I woke up angry, which was good because the anger actually fuels it gives me the energy I need to keep going and to do hard, because you're going to start hard. When you do something like this, when you're processing trauma, when you have to do something that's going to change your situation, like living situation, processing hard, you need a little bit of an edge, right? But also I wanted to just make a note here that I allow, throughout the course of the last 2 weeks, every once in a while, I would feel the sobbing coming up from my heart. And all I need to do is know that Papa sees it, and I'll just turn my head and just weep, and then I'll keep going with my day. It's just, it's just part of dealing with the trauma. It's okay. It's truly okay. Turn your head, go to the bathroom, go outside for a walk, or I would go, wherever, and just sob for that minute, and then and it's relief. Okay, step 3 is to remember. This is huge. You have to remember to your heart. Now remember the reality of your situation. Remember you're the reality of this. Okay, that's not right. Not remember you're the reality of the situation. Remember your reality of this. The situation has a reality, and so that's what I meant. In this moment, okay, my brain is remembering to my heart a few things, and that is who my Elohim is, why I have chosen this Elohim, who I am in relationship to him, the hope that I own that no one can take away, and the promises made by Papa to me, and the war that I live in. Okay, so I know that might sound huge, and that's a lot right there to process if you're not really a mature walk, you're not in a mature walk, and you don't keep the stuff in the front of your brain. It could be kind of tricky, but this is another thing. You should be keeping these things in front of your brain. You should be keeping them right here all the time, because then that will help you deal with trauma when it comes, because it's going to keep coming. Okay, so you're going to remember who your Elohim is. He is king and he is daddy. He's creator, he's everything. He's Melchizedek, he is the king of the universe, okay? And then you have why you have chosen this Elohim. He has a great track record, and who am I in relationship to him? Who am I in relationship to him? I'm his kid, and I am royalty. And then the hope that you own, the hope for the things are temporary here. That's a reality, and that hope is paradise is coming. It's just not here yet. And then the promises that he has made. He's made a lot of promises to those who trust him, those who obey. And so you camp out on that, and you hang on that, and you remember those things to your heart. And then you remember that you live in a world at war right now. So this is on the other side of the fall, prior the restoration of all things. So things that I remember is that he will vindicate me, and I don't have to. All right, so when somebody has wronged me, when I know that, I just wish there had been a little fly on the wall that could see those 3 times that I got, 4 times actually, I got attacked by these people. It's just me. It's my word against their word. I know Papa sees, and I can't wait to be vindicated. That's healing. That helps my heart understand and be okay with stuff. And then knowing all my dreams and hopes and plans are safe in Papa's pocket. So this is a Hebrew's journey. Your journey as a Hebrew is to stay light, to stay flexible, to stay unsettled, to stay unattached to the world, no matter what the social norm is. So I remember this to my heart in split seconds when I'm going through trauma. I remember this all the time, but when I'm going through the trauma, it's again, I remember, okay, I can't be settled here. This is not my home. Home is coming. Home is where your heart is, and my heart is there, not here, or there with Papa, not here in the world as it is. And then I got to stay unattached. So huge. So last Wednesday, when all that happened, I remembered, and this is what I've been saying ever since last Wednesday, I will not be bullied by a pagan. I am a daughter of the King. I am a daughter of Yahovah Elohim, who is the King of the universe, who is going to, at some point allow his son to come back, and he is going to, claim all governments and I am his bride. I am Papa's daughter. I am the bride of Yeshua, and I will not be bullied by a pagan. So that's where my anger came from. So the anger came from not so much the injustice as I am a daughter of the King, and you don't treat a daughter of the King like this. So that is what I was remembering to my heart, is who I am in relationship to Papa. Okay, I know this is going long, and I'm sorry. This is going to be a little bit longer than an hour show, but super important. Step 4 is to assess the situation. So you're going to assess the situation. So I quickly did this when I was on the beach with the dogs. How free am I to embrace change in this situation? It was huge. Absolutely huge to look at. How free are you to embrace change, okay? So if you can do something about it, no matter how hard that something is, then you are not a victim. I'm not a victim. In this situation that happened last week, I had savings for a food truck, honestly. So I had a little bit, with Isaac's new job, I've been saving just a little bit aside in order for Hadassah and I to be able to do something together that would be really super good for her during my 50th year, my Jubilee year coming up, that I'm going to take off of ministry. So I'm going to do a sabbatical year on my Jubilee year. I'm going to really enjoy that year, and I wanted to do something with Hadassah. So I have been setting aside a little money to hopefully get a food truck. That's the idea. I wanted to do this with her because she loves to cook, and so do I. And I want to live in the Yom Kippur chosen fast that Papa has said that he wants us to do all year long. I wanted to live in that, feeding people, not just spiritually, but actually physically. So I had this little bit of savings. I also had no signed lease, and that's a huge story there. But we actually been at that cabin for 3 years and 2 months without a lease, and this was actually part of the issue. Had we signed the lease the week before when they wanted it, we would not be in this situation. We'd be somewhere else. Something else would have been happening. But Papa prevented Isaac from reading it the first weekend, and we were going to read it and sign it the next weekend, which was last weekend, which we're not there anymore. Anyway, so and then I looked at I assessed the situation. So freedom, and I want to make this point clear, freedom to act is much more important than comfort. Okay, I don't think the generation of my parents, this is not even on the radar, but freedom to act is much more important than comfort. Okay, so it was going to be very uncomfortable to move, very uncomfortable to do this fast, but the freedom to be able to do that, was so much more valuable than having the comfort of not having to move in a rush. All right. So when we are resistant to change, then we become paralyzed by the situation. I want to make this so clear. When we are resistant to change, we become paralyzed by the situation. This is me in my teens and 20s when it came to men. Okay, I was resistant to change. I knew that was the one, and I had to hang on until it's pathetic. And I became paralyzed by the situation. So I like to embrace change now. This is a habit. This is a new thing that I've learned over the course since I was 33. So 33, 43, almost 20, so 17 years. And I don't want to let Hasatan have the last word. So as I'm assessing the situation, I'm like, no, he will not have the last word. I'm going to employ my freedom to act. All right. And the chiropractor actually, which is interesting, I'll go back here for a sec. I went to the chiropractor. Remember I told you for the first Monday and Tuesday, and he said that I had experienced trauma, and that was something that happened in the ladies group, how it affected me, that I didn't even realize it was affecting me quite that hard, but it did. And then, but then I had the second semi-truck that hit me on Wednesday, and I went to the chiropractor on Friday, and he said, you are handling this situation beautifully in my body. And he was making a note that it's because I actually got to act on something. I got to do something about my situation. I did something. I began to move. Like, it hit me, and whoa, shock, hurt, pain, all of it, the whole ramifications, and then boom, I'm going to do something about it. And when you operate like that, and that sort of, that level of freedom to do something about it, it changes your whole mental state, your physical state. And he was attesting to that was my body was handling that well. All right, so step 5 is to resist the lies. Okay, so you're going to resist Hasatan. So who are you listening to? You're going to read the scriptures, or you're going to remember what the scripture says. That's all I had time to do, was just to remember. You're going to let trusted people speak into your life after the initial. So I want Papa first. I let him see the tears first. I cry in his arms first, and then I let trusted people speak into my life. But be really, really, really careful with this, because they can prevent the process, and it can be all about them instead of it being about what you need to process this. Okay, so be very, very careful. Like, for me, it was just Isaac, and it was really only at a certain time too, because he was processing as well, and so we could only be there for each other on one level as husband and wife. And he processes things totally different than I do, and so just be really careful when you let people speak into your life during the moment of trauma, when you're experiencing it, when you're dealing with the pain and you're letting it pass through, because they could stop that process of the pain moving through. Because the last thing you want, and one thing I forgot to mention, is the pain moving through. It's important to let it move through, because if that pain stops here, then it's yours, then you own it, then it stops here, and it starts to do all kinds of evil work inside of you. You've got to let it pass through, even if it slams you against the wall, and it makes you fall to the floor, in front of your Papa. All right. Do not make agreements with the evil one. As in saying things like, this always happens to me, or I can't do this anymore, or Papa heart hates me, Yah hates me, why is he doing this to me? You start questioning the heart of Papa. That is exactly what Hasatan wants you to do, is question Papa's heart towards you. And he's going to camp out on traumatic events, trauma in your life, painful things. He's going to camp out on that and really milk that and try to get you to turn on Papa. That's his goal. When in fact, you should get angry at Hasatan and you should turn on him, Okay, so another thing that I do to resist the lies is I try not to rehearse the past, as in, oh, woe is me. This is how this is just, I'm just so, such a sad case because this has always happened to me. Woe is me, woe is me. Knock it off if you do that, okay? All the traumatic events that you have gone through the past have played a role in who you are right now and how you deal with things right now. And to continue looking at the past and saying, wow, this happened, this happened, this happened. If you, and saying the woe is me thing, if you look in the past and you say, wow, how did Papa help me through that? How did Papa make that happen? How did he, what happened after that, and what good things came of that? Or, wow, what the heck was that about, Papa? Or, how you process the past is super important. But in the moment, don't do the woe is me, that is just going to be catastrophic in stopping you from processing and from moving and from changing and from making new habits to deal with trauma in a better way. So step 6, look at the options. So look at your options. I'm doing step 1 through 9 here last week in split, okay, not split second, but I'm doing this within the course of just a few hours, okay, minutes, hours. So I looked at all my options. What are my options? So I didn't officially start looking until I wanted to lay at his feet, which is actually step 7, but I looked quickly at what my options were. So I didn't officially start looking. I didn't get on Craigslist right away. I wanted to give my heart something to look at, something to something for it to look at, something for it to feel like I was going to take care of it so it could breathe. Because otherwise it would feel shut in, what I call shut in. So this is like you're caring for your heart at all costs, because I need my heart to be able to do hard. So I have to have my heart in order to do what's in front of me. So I'm going to give it options. I'm going to give it, I'm going to let it look up. I'm going to say, okay, heart, there's this option, this option, this option. My options last Wednesday were leave or stay. And instantly I knew it was leave. It was a no-brainer. Okay, leave. That is the option that my heart was going to be okay with. So I've used imagination and brainstorming to do this. So I consider any option though. Like don't limit YHVH with filters or stipulations. So I know people that do this. Like, well, moving out into a teepee isn't even an option. Well, yes, it is. Actually, it is. I have to stay in this moldy apartment. I have to stay in this situation that is really, really bad. I have to leave my kids in public school, even though they're forcing me to do vaccinations, or even though they're teaching my children evolution, or even though this or that or the other thing. No, you don't have to let them stay there. This is putting him in a box. This is putting stipulations on him to say, you can fix this situation, you can fix this trauma if you do it only within these parameters. But he's Elohim. Everything is his. He sees so much more than we do. So why do we put stipulations on him? We shouldn't be stipulation. So it may not be an easy option. Okay, so you're not necessarily going to get only an option. You're not going to just give your heart options that are easy. Okay, your heart wants to breathe no matter what. So if it means leaving the comfort for something that's hard, your heart will be fine with that, because it's going to get to breathe. You force your heart to stay in a situation that is just toxic for it. It would rather have hard. It would rather leave and go live in the woods than live in a place that is super hard on the heart. So this is huge right here. And, not putting a filters or stipulations on Papa. Anything outside of that isn't an option. I'm not going to, it's not going to, those aren't even options, Papa. Well, actually they are. So I hope you understood what I meant there. But step 7 is to pray and then praise him. So honestly, I do it kind of at the same time in tears, like completely in tears. And I don't fake praise kind of thing. So what I mean by that is I cry out my praise. I cry out my pain. I cry out my praise. And then I lay my options that I just, in step 6, I lay those options in front of him. So I do this from the heart. This is what I did last week at the beach. So I'm down at the beach. And I say last week, but I think it was actually 2 weeks ago, just so you know. But I was down on the beach and I was in shock, and I was going through the steps really fast. And so I was looking at options, and I'm like, Papa, I don't even want to go look at the internet, at Craigslist or anything for something that's available until I lay my options at your feet. I do not want to do this without you. So be real, be authentic, pound on his chest. I tell this to people all the time. This is something that I do regularly when I'm experiencing pain or trauma. I will go out by myself somewhere and I will just pound on Papa's chest and go, do you see me? Do you see me? And I'm crying and I'm pounding and I'm mad and I'm just giving it all to him. He is big enough to handle it. He is totally big enough to handle your anger and your frustration. He knows this is hard. He knows living here is tough. And so he wants to have this He wants to communicate with you. He wants to walk with you. I practice this regularly, absolutely regularly. I don't hold anything back from him. He knows it anyway, but I vent on him. So I definitely go somewhere alone to do that. Can't do that in front of people very well at all. And sometimes I have to put it on hold for just a little bit, not long. I don't let it go. I don't put that on hold for days. I put that on hold for maybe hours, okay? So if I can get out of whatever situation I'm in, I hold it, and then I go out and then pound on his chest. So then I remind Papa who he is and of his promises to me. You see that in the scriptures constantly. You see Moses reminding Papa, well, don't kill him, blah, blah, blah. You see the prophets reminding Papa of stuff. So I do that. I remind him his promises to me. I remind him of how much he loves me. Not that he needs that, but I still do. I do like the sackcloth and ashes idea is that, and I don't tear my clothes and all that stuff, but I show him my longing and how much my heart is breaking because of the way of the situation, of the way things are right now in this world, and how much I want the King to come back. Everything revolves around that, like all the trauma, all the pain, every situation, every new change that is hard to do. It all revolves around this huge desire that I have for the King to come back, to have this over with, to be able to live in the way we were meant to live. And how much I want vindication. I can't tell you how much I want vindication. There are so many situations that I know, like Job, I am clean before Papa and I have been accused falsely and I cannot wait for vindication. Oh, so, and also this desire, I want to be the head, not the foot. He promises that for prosperity to be restored and all this stuff. So I pray and I praise him all at the same time while I'm just crying. And I lay it before his feet, the options. And then I walk through the options with him. So here's step 8 is I use this try on idea. So as I'm walking with Papa through the options, I begin to imagine the scenarios that I would find myself in each one of those. So then I try on each scenario. What would it feel like to stay here in the cabin? Oh, dangerous. No. What would it feel like to move now? Oh, hard, but I can do that. What would it feel like to move into an apartment? Hey, I might get good internet. Yeah, or, different things like this. I try on each scenario and I let my heart kind of tell me what it would feel like. And if I do it really quickly, I discard options that don't sit very well in my gut. I help my heart embrace the coming change by doing this. So I'm beginning to put my heart in that situation, and I'm beginning to say, can you deal with that heart? Would that be okay? And I want to give my heart a trade up, okay? So I've talked about this a lot before. Your heart will only trade up. It will never trade down. So when I use that thought when it comes to feast keeping and all that, from pagan feast to his rhythm, but also in when you have trauma, when you're looking at change, when you're looking at doing something about the trauma, you're not going to sit there and you're not going to continue to get beat up. You got to move, you got to do something. And so I want to give my heart a trade up. So I feel like my heart, if it's not at least at the same level, it's got to be a trade up, something like that. So last week, or when we were in the throes of this, it was Wednesday when I went to the beach, when I got attacked, when we left the cabin with the dogs and the kids, when I started wandering, was in shock and then hurt. I went to the library and began, after I prayed and gave it to Papa, then I got on Craigslist and I began to look at what was available, and my heart started sinking again because there was nothing in that area I could afford. At least I didn't feel like I could afford. And so then apartments, I started looking at different apartments that were completely junk and trashy, that were in my price range. My heart was screaming, no. And so I was paying attention to that. And then also in areas, like different areas, like where it was, my heart was screaming, no, not there. So I was listening to my heart. So step 9 is to, I'm going to get back to step 8 in the sense of where to take that next. But step 9, this is really super important. If you don't hear anything else I say today, this is most important, okay? Trust Yahovah, your Elohim. And this is not a cliche, people. We have heard this so much, but I'm going to break it down for you. This is a core belief that I have, and I have it at step 1. It permeates my whole entire life, but it permeates when I deal with trauma. It's at step 1. When I got attacked at the car and I began to walk to the cabin, this was going through my head. This is what everything is packaged in. All my beliefs is packaged in this, okay? And it helps. It will get me through every trauma. It has gotten me through every trauma that I've experienced as deal with trauma in a healthy manner. Okay. But I put it here at step 9 because it's at this point when I'm starting to make a firm decision of what's going to happen, the change that's going to happen, then I recall this again, okay? And I recall it to my family, I call it to Isaac. Yah, the point here is, Yah will be able to work with whatever I choose to do, okay? This is crucial. My future does not ride on this decision. Okay, this is ultimate freedom and allows me to move quickly. Ultimate trust is knowing that He is able to bring me through any challenge to do His purposes in my life. There is not just one way to plant a garden. There's not just one way to make bread, okay? Most of the time, He just needs me to make a decision and then act on it so that He can work with that new situation to continue to do His work in my life. So I just need to do something. And most of the time, that work is simply to get me to trust Him enough to jump. It's called the free fall, right? To really trust Him with my life. This is huge. This step is so major that if you don't get this step, then I think everything else is going to fall. Because you have to know that the decision that you make right now is not, the weight of it isn't on you, okay? You're going to trust Him over yourself, in the sense of, are you going to make the right decision? Are you moving to the right place? Is it the right amount of money? Can you make the payments? I mean, 1,000 questions, right? And, you can get waylaid in and roadblocked in those questions because you don't know the answer to those questions, all of them. And when you say, I'm going to trust Yehovah Elohim, what I am suggesting, that trust is that you're going to trust that He will be able to work through whatever decision it is that you make. Most of the time, I know John Eldridge talks about this, most of the time, He doesn't care what decision you make. He just wants you to make a decision, okay? And He wants you to move so that He can then work with that decision that you just did. Now, I'm not talking about, there are certain decisions that, go against His law and stuff like that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about life decisions where you're trying to figure out right now in particular how to deal with traumatic events. How do you deal with having your house ripped out from underneath you and you having to leave right now? I have walked in this enough to trust Him enough to trust that He can show up at the teepee to take care of us. He can show up in an RV to take care of us. He can show up in an apartment to take care of us. He can show up, at public school he can show up at private school. He can show up at homeschool. He can show up, I trust that He is capable, because there is going to be challenges over and over and over and over in your life. They're not going away. And I know that I need the freedom to just move quickly. And I have that freedom because I trust Him. Because it's not a matter of, am I making the right decision? It's a matter of, will He come through? And He will. He will not in a cliche sort of way, but He will come through as in He will work His plans out no matter what I choose to do. As of our situation, it didn't matter to Him. I don't think it mattered one bit to Him where we ended up, in the sense of, I know He wants to take care of us, but I don't think it mattered whether we were in, Spokane, or whether we were in, Coeur d'Alene, or whether we were in Portland, or whether we were in Seattle, or whether we went to Arizona, or whether we went to Hawaii, or Costa Rica, or Israel. It doesn't matter. I feel like it didn't matter. He would have been able to work His plans, his goals, no matter what. So I was free to make a quick decision. All right, step 10 is to act. Yes, act. So you jump, you do the free fall. So you don't overthink the decision. So you're operating in the freedom of trusting Papa and this beautiful freedom that you have to make a quick decision, but now you're going to act, you're going to jump, you're going to do the free fall. So don't overthink it. Respond appropriately, okay? By acting quickly, I tell my heart that I'm going to take care of it well. I'm not going to ask my heart to stay there and get trashed, okay? I'm not going to stay long and let my heart get beat up again in this situation. I want my heart to trust me. Lots of psychological things that are affected here, but I just know that embracing action is what works to retain my mental health. Okay, so I brainstorm really quickly. I discard options that don't sit well very quickly. I don't get bogged down with details. So the details would be like, the how is this going to happen? That word how is going to clog the wheel from moving. So I trust Papa and I let him worry about the how. Okay, so I let Papa worry about the how. And I chose an apartment to go to. It's literally double the rent from the cabin. And we were making it, but it was a struggle. And now, you know, with the little bit of money I had set aside for the food truck for my Jubilee year, I had something to use. So we were able to make that move with this little nest egg that I had. And it was kind of good because I was like, well, what do we use that money for? Is it, you know, food truck? Is it this or that? But now I know exactly what we're going to use that money for. But the apartments that spoke to my heart, the apartments that were not too much more, either more on the bottom level of the scale, Papa will come through. I know that he will provide. The how was not in my thought at that time. And I know that he will provide. I know it will work out. He's going to continue to work out the how. Okay, so step 11, we're almost done. Step 11, it's go time, okay? So I don't get stuck in, oh, I got to sit and deal with this. I got to sit and process. I got to go. It's go time, literally go time, like emergency go. It's like, you know, get moving literally. And so then I literally don't stop moving until it's over. We just finally, I would say about 3 days ago, completely out of the boxes. No more boxes around. We are moved in completely. But I don't stop moving physically really until it's done and until my heart is safe again. So I'm going to make sure my heart knows that I'm going to do everything I can to protect it. So, I mean, I literally went like with no shower for days during that move. It was like 5 days. I moved the family in 5 days from that little cabin to here. From the moment he attacked me to the moment we were in this apartment was 5 days. And there was actually a Shabbat in there, so it was 6 days with a Shabbat rest. I'm going to talk about that in a second. So I actually had dreadlocks in my hair, and I sat in the shower for an hour and a half trying to get the dreadlocks out. I didn't want to cut my hair, but and I was so sore. My body was so sore. Wendy can attest to that. Her and her son came to help us the very last day of moving heavy stuff, and I could barely walk up the stairs. I just kept going and going, but I wasn't done. I was not done. It was go time. So, and I also, I use the pain and I redirect the energy that pain takes. I redirect that into, I put a ton of energy into evacuation, into moving, into whatever it is, whatever path I've got to do now for whatever trauma it is. I turn my head and I focus the pain, the energy there. That helps a ton. And then I don't look back. I literally don't look back. This is where I'm going, and that's huge right there. All right, step 12, make it beautiful. I must make the destination a beautiful place that my heart will want to go. This is another very important factor, something that an Ezer Kenegdo was built to do. She is beauty. She is going to direct the eye with her beauty. So I must make the destination a beautiful place that my heart wants to go. I had to have little white lights in the end. You know, I have to have it. I have to this is part of bringing my heart along. This is also part of bringing my family's hearts along. If I don't have my heart for the times that are coming that are hard, then I will die. Like my soul will die, my heart will die, and I will just be a robot. And I don't want to do that. I want to be able to love, and in order to love, you have to have your heart. This is super important, to take care of your heart during a traumatic experience. Thinking of beautiful, and make it a trade up for my heart's sake. I didn't finish that, obviously. And then this is the 12 plus 1. This is the plus 1. The final step is obey during the trauma. So trauma is not an excuse to sin. Okay, so when you experience trauma, it doesn't mean you can put on hold obedience, all right? So in fact, obedience will help to save you, because obedience will help you by giving you structure no matter what is happening. So when we went to the teepee, it was so wonderful to know that even though we're living outside, there was this rhythm structure of, every Shabbat, every new moon, every annual feast, and the winter festivals. You had this wonderful structure, and so you're doing trauma. You're going through it. You're doing hard, and you're slogging. But every Shabbat was a day to feel like royalty. Even in the middle of that slogging, we got to stop and remember who our Elohim is and who we were in relationship to him. And that is so healing for our hearts. So I will not ignore him to save myself. So if I'm going to put obedience aside so I get through this traumatic experience, then that's ignoring him in order to save myself. No, I need an Elohim, and this is huge. I need an Elohim to do for me what I cannot do for myself. This is why I chose Yehovah Elohim. He has a great track record. He is the only living Elohim, and he will be able to do for me for what I cannot do for myself. That's why I sacrifice to him. That's why anybody sacrifices to a God, is to get something in return. And I have many needs, and he will come through. So last Shabbat, we actually had a great one. Went through everything on Wednesday. Thursday, I found this place and did a little tour. Spent pretty much 3/4 of the day securing this place. And I had different issues going on there, and then began to pack Thursday night and Thursday afternoon, and did runs to town, back and forth to the storage unit, deciding for, this thing, was this going to storage, or was this getting thrown out, or was this, coming with us? It was a throw job, and I would have thrown a whole lot more had my girls been gone, but I definitely got us lighter. But my girls had dance on Friday. They had friends that came in the afternoon to help us, and the house was a complete disaster. It was torn up completely as Erev Shabbat's coming, as Shabbat is coming, and I had all the girls stop. I had them go take the dogs for a walk, and when they came back, I had the table set with candles on it, and I had the boxes pushed back, low light on, and started dinner. And had a movie that was ready to play. So I invited them into that rhythm of stopping and obeying the Shabbat command in the middle of fleeing, really. And it was a little hard. Of course, it's a little hard to stop, but I'm going to do it. And I'm going to practice doing it every time. And then Shabbat day, woke up amongst all the boxes, and got a text from my sister-in-law, Karen, and she's like, hey, let's spend the day together. And I'm like, yeah. She wanted to come out, and I'm like, no, we're going to go there. So we ended up meeting her in town, went on a hike, and went and hung out at a coffee shop, and it was sunshiny and beautiful. In fact, Shabbat was the beautiful day, flanked with rainy days, with pouring down rain. So move days were pouring rain, although the rain stopped when we were actually moving stuff in and out of different places. So anyway, this is it's important to obey while you're in the middle of it. Okay, so I'm almost done here. 12 plus 1 steps are: you ask your heart, how's it doing? You feel, you allow the pain to pass through you, and you don't block that, you don't stop that process. You remember who your Elohim is, who you are in relationship with, the story you're living in right now, the big grand story. You assess the situation, and you resist the devil. You resist making agreements with him. Number 6, you look at your options. What is out there? What can you give your heart so it can breathe? 7, you pray and you praise in the middle of crying. 8, you start to imagine and try on those options that you looked at in step 6. And number 9, you trust. This is huge. You trust Papa to be able to work with whatever choice you make. It gives you the freedom to move quickly. Number 10, you act. Then you actually do something. You actually begin that process. And 11 is go time, and you just go. 12 is you make it beautiful. And then the final step, you just keep the commandments, you obey. So I know everyone handles trauma differently, some better than others, but this is how that I have learned to handle it. And I have been through so much that I know that this works. And I didn't even realize there were 12 plus 1 steps that I do until I sat down and went through. I sat down 2 days ago, and as I was preparing for this, I sat down and thought, how did I do that? Because Isaac's struggling right now, and he's been asking me a lot of questions. After 20 years of marriage, we're still figuring it out. He's still figuring out, how do you do that, Rebekah? It scares him sometimes watching me go through it, for sure. But look at your own past and look at how you have processed trauma. How have you dealt with it? And can you go through it again? Does your heart trust you to take care of it? And then will you trust Yehovah Elohim to bring you through no matter what you chose? And can you let go? Because you know what? If you make the wrong decision, and you go to the wrong place, well, then you'll just have to leave that place, right? And it'll be another opportunity. It's just kind of, you do it, and you do it, and you do it. All right, and then can you let it go, and can you say goodbye? Because guess what? It will come again. A challenge will come again. Super hard challenges will continue to be part of your life until Yeshua comes, and he is not here yet. So it's going to continue to be part of our life, and you've got to learn to handle the trauma well without getting taken out. And I think especially for believers, he's trying to keep us freed up from the planet. So as we're screaming down to the ends of the age, he wants to keep us free from the planet. So he's going to cut us free, and it's going to be painful as he cuts away. So I know that I haven't thought about every single kind of traumatic event that could possibly happen. I'm blanket covering kind of all pain here, but there might be extended trauma. I've had some of that where you can't actually, act on something right away, but there's a lot of these principles that I think that you can use in any traumatic traumatic event or hard situation. I think a lot of these different steps definitely could be applicable to those things. So thank you for hanging with me. It's been an hour and a half. That's a lot, though. That's a really lot to process. Faithful is another great word. I mean, he's faithful. But I think sometimes, I know coming from Christianity, we have words that kind of have come through like righteousness or sanctification or faithfulness or justice or, trustworthy. All these things kind of like have these big, sounding words. And I don't think we've ever really broken them down enough. And so what I was trying to do is break down the trust him. Like, I trust him to be able to, move me out of another situation. So I'm going to make a choice for the health of my heart, for the health of my brain, and make that choice. But I trust him enough, and I trust our relationship enough. I trust that we are so tight that he will move me if he needs to, and I will go. And I would suggest doing something. I would suggest really looking through those steps that I laid out and processing each one, and it might be time for a change and jumping into Papa's arms. I don't know what that's going to look like. For us, it looked like going to a teepee. I mean, literally living outside. I just know he's capable of taking us through all kinds of things. I have struggled so hard. If you've watched my ministry, I've struggled so hard with internet. I've struggled so hard with different things. And, being here for the last, I would say for the last few days, I think this week, I've really realized how hard it was to live at the cabin and how much I had actually set against me. I'd create something and then I would have to take it to town to upload. There was so much that was set against me. It was really hard. I had to, we had to chop wood. We had to go get the wood, chop the wood, and in the morning I had to build fires. It would be freezing in the cabin in the morning, and so there was that process. Plus, there was mice everywhere, and so in the morning before you ever even went into the kitchen and cooked anything, you had to disinfect all the countertops. You had to deal with whatever food that they had gotten into that night, and sometimes you were so exhausted, and you heard the mice, and you just put earplugs in, and you just said, "I'll see you in the morning and deal with it later," And living in the shadow of a big lodge with people watching us, even way out there in the woods. I mean, I made a little video it was a little angry video during this whole process. Hi, girls, you come in. And I actually was going, I am so sick of this, and I'm so sick of this, and I'm so sick of this. definitely this is a good place, and I think we'll be blessed here. So thank you so much for hanging with me this whole time, and we'll see about the return of the Happy Hippie Hebrew Girls show. I'm not sure what's going on with that or the midweek. So at this point, this is all I wanted to do and encourage you today. And on the heels of a really, really hard 2 weeks, week and a half that we've been through, I just want to praise the name of Yehovah for his being faithful and knowing this is hard. And that he makes massive promises, and I just got to keep alive. You know, I love the movie or the clip. The whole movie is like gruesome. I can't watch it all, but The Last of the Mohicans, there's a scene in there when Nathaniel, who is in love with Cora, one of the girls, he I think I may have told this before, but he is going to save her by leaving her. And the last thing he says before he jumps into the waterfall and before she gets taken captive, he says, just stay alive. And really, this is more than just physically staying alive. You're talking about your heart. This is what Papa's telling us, is just stay alive. You know, take care of your heart. Solomon says, guard your heart. And so when you go through traumatic events, you have to guard your heart. How do you do that? And I wanted to share with you how I do that, because I have guarded my heart. You know, there were times when I didn't take care of my heart very well, and now I do know how to take care of my heart in the middle of trauma after trauma, pounding after pounding. Whether it comes from Papa or not, you know, it doesn't matter. My goal is to keep my heart alive so that I can have the rock living in it, so that the rock can be my helper, so that she can help me get to the happily ever after, because I want that more than anything in the world. Someday, you know, my body's going to match my heart, my living situation is going to match my dreams, and I will not have the trauma ever again. So, shalom, and I will see you again.